Niclas Fullkrug is likely to be leaving West Ham United in the new year, and here is a list of everyone that is surprised by that news. The striker's agent went on a podcast over in Germany where he admitted the move to the Premier League and West Ham had not worked out for Füllkrug, and it is perhaps in the best interests of all parties involved that Füllkrug leaves West Ham, and probably sooner rather than later. This was followed up last night by Patrick Berger, a Bundesliga reporter for Sky Sports Germany. He stated Füllkrug is looking to leave West Ham during the January transfer window because he still has hopes of making it into Germany's squad ahead of the World Cup. The transfer would likely involve a player coming to West Ham from the club that's acquiring Füllkrug, so no cash involved, just a straight player swap, or, which is more likely to happen and probably will happen, a loan move. No talk of a permanent transfer unless it was a player exchange, which is really difficult to do. I feel quite confident Füllkrug will leave West Ham, he will go back to Germany, and it will be a loan move. I feel quite confident that's going to happen. And actually, I think this is good news. I think this is good news for all parties. I think it's good news for West Ham, and I think it's good news for Füllkrug. Now, I say good news for West Ham. I use that very loosely because the fact of the matter is we are once again away to lose a substantial amount of money on another expensive and ill thought out transfer. When he was signed, it never really felt like the right purchase for West Ham in terms of player profile. He was 30 when we signed him, maybe even 31, 25 million, 17 million, depending who you believe. The reports vary. But even if we go lower end, even if we take that 17 million, it's still an expensive failure for West Ham United. Again, another one. And I think if you get it wrong occasionally, it's not the end of the world. But when you get it wrong as frequently as we do, it's incredibly frustrating, especially when the club will then plead poverty. Oh, we've got no money to spend. Well, this is why, because you keep making mistake after mistake, expensive error after expensive error. Now, arguably, there's good news in here for West Ham fans in the short term because Patrick Berger also stated that Füllkrug is fit and available to play against Burnley at the weekend, and I'd rather have him available than not. Frankie did a podcast with Frankie yesterday, and he made the point that when Callum Wilson came off, had Füllkrug been on the bench, he would have been a good player to bring on. And I completely agree. Now, it was okay against Newcastle because we were winning. Souček came on and ended up scoring, so it turns out to be a good substitution. But between now and the January transfer window, there will be situations, especially when you look at the fixtures after the international break, there will be games where, when Wilson's tired, which I'd imagine is every game, I don't think he will play 90 minutes. And again, that's not his fault. It's just a poorly assembled squad. So we can accept that Wilson is a 60-minute player, which I think he is. And he was good against Newcastle. He was just pooped by the hour mark, so he needed to be subbed. But there will be games, whether it's against Liverpool, Bournemouth, Brighton, Villa, where the game's in the balance. Maybe we're drawing, maybe we're getting beat. And actually, the striker you bring on needs to be a goal threat. I appreciate Souček scores goals, but he didn't play like a striker when he was on the pitch because he's not a striker. The commentator called him a very false nine. A little bit tongue-in-cheek, but also pretty accurate as well. And this isn't a dig at Souček. He came on and got that goal. Not every player would have followed that in like he did. But there will be situations between now and the January transfer window where Wilson's tired, needs to come off, and we're going to need to put a striker in his place because we need to maintain that goal threat. The play that Wilson had against Newcastle was just what you get from a striker. He was better than Paqueta. He was better than Bowen doing that role because he's a natural striker. So I think having Füllkrug available is better than not having him available. But that's the issue, isn't it? Because I think he's a good footballer. I think he's a good striker. I've always liked Füllkrug in the Bundesliga. And I think I will like Füllkrug in the Bundesliga again. But when we brought him to West Ham, I was concerned because of the type of striker he is. You've got to get players close to him. He's not a target man. He's not someone that's going to run in behind. He likes to be involved in the build-up, and you've got to get players 10, 15 yards away from him. And we never really did that. So to get the best out of a fit Füllkrug, you've got to almost build an attack around him to some extent. You've got to make sure you get Bowen, Paqueta, Somerville, whoever it is, you've got to get them close to Füllkrug in order to get the best out of him. But we could never do that because he was never fit. And even when he was fit, we really did see that best side of him. There were some moments and there were some games where you could see what he could bring to the team, but they were few and far between. But we could never, ever, whether it's Lopetegui, Potter, or now Nuno, you could never really build the attack with the idea of getting the best out of Füllkrug. You can't do it because he might play 1, 2, 3, 4 games. He might be excellent, but by the 5th or 6th game, he's probably injured again. So you cannot train and you cannot build your entire attack around a player that's just incredibly unreliable in terms of his fitness. You just can't do it. Because what happens if we did, and then he performs well for a couple of games, and then he's injured, you put Wilson in, and suddenly it just doesn't work because the player you've put in there isn't the same as the one that's just come out. We could never, ever build an attack around Füllkrug due to the fact that his muscle, well, it's not a fact, his muscles are made of cheese strings. He was always going to get injured. And there's a way to say it's a shame. It's a shame for him, but not for West Ham. Because the warning signs were there. His injury record was there to see. The type of player he is was there to see. It was just a badly thought out transfer. Now, getting him off the books, getting him away in January, ideally we'd sell him. But who's going to buy him? Nobody. No one's going to buy him. If they do, it'll be 5 million or something like that. I think we'd do well to get that. I think some clubs might come in and offer to take him for free. And it's something we're going to have to consider. But I think a loan move is more than likely. And if you make him available for loan immediately, I think you'll find there's a lot of clubs in the Bundesliga willing to take him. Because you will get a really good striker. You will get a striker that's suited to the Bundesliga with all the motivation in the world to get into that Germany squad for the World Cup at low cost. So I think it's a bit of a no-brainer for Bundesliga clubs. Some of them, he's been linked to Bremen, going back to Bremen already. Makes sense. They don't really have a striker. Boniface is there. It's not worked out. He started the last couple of games, but he's been pretty poor since going there. So they do need a striker. There is a vacancy for him going back to Bremen. And I'd imagine that's where he'd go at the minute. But the reason I think this is good news for West Ham is because we need a striker in January. There's no doubt about it, even with Füllkrug. It's got... The thing is, I almost don't consider Füllkrug as part of the squad because of that injury record. He could come back, he could play against Burnley and score, and I think this is wonderful, and I'll appreciate it. And he might do well against Liverpool and Bournemouth, but you just know by Brighton and Villa, he's out again. He's unreliable. So when I look at the squad, I almost sometimes forget Füllkrug is here. That's the reality. Nuno's not had him yet. What's important in January is we bring in a striker, regardless of Füllkrug. If Füllkrug's here in February, great. If not, I'm not that bothered, to be honest with you. But if getting Füllkrug's wages off the books, and he's on a lot of wages, I don't know exactly what he's on, let's just say 100 grand a week, because that's the reason Füllkrug came to the Premier League. He spoke before, he didn't really have much of a desire to play in the Premier League. He wasn't that bothered about coming to England, but financially, it was very appealing to him, and that's the reason he came. I don't blame him. Don't blame him at all. It's his job. He had a job opportunity which financially benefited him a lot, and he took it. He's come over here, and when he's been fit, I've not really had an issue with his efforts or anything like that. He's just not been fit enough. But getting his wages off the books would be a starting point, and it would allow us to get a striker in, and the wage bill doesn't change. As long as Füllkrug goes out on loan and the club taking him pay his entire wages, and then we go get someone in. Let's just use Chris Wood as an example. I don't think we'll get Chris Wood, by the way. I'm just going to use him as an example because we're all familiar with him. But Dyche loves Wood. Pardon. Mrs. Dyche loves Sean's Wood. Anyway, that was an unexpected conversation we just had briefly there. But Sean Dyche absolutely loved having Chris Wood at Burnley. He scored goals for Dyche under Burnley. He's just unavailable at the minute. He's injured at the minute. But I'd imagine when he's fit, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes straight back in. But saying that, Jesus is now getting a run in the team, and also Awoni's looked all right under Dyche so far. And towards the end of Postecoglou, Awoni started picking up minutes. So maybe we could get Wood. If not, maybe it would be Awoni. I don't know. But Nottingham Forest may have a striker that they're willing to let go. But let's just use Chris Wood as an example. If we can get rid of Füllkrug and bring in Chris Wood, and the wage bill don't change at all, I think that's all right. Obviously, there would be a transfer fee there, and then whoever we do bring in January, they're going to look to take advantage of us because we're going to be desperate. And we are desperate. There's no getting away from it. So when I seen the news that Füllkrug's agent thinks it's best that he leaves West Ham, I was inclined to agree. When I seen Patrick Berger say he wants out of West Ham, he wants to go back to the Bundesliga in January, I was okay with it. If anything, I was happy with it because I thought brilliant. Because we need players that we can rely on. Like I said, performance-wise, I don't have an issue. He's just unreliable fitness-wise. A horrific transfer. And in January, it looks like it'll come to an end. He'll go out on loan. And then in the summer, he'll join someone permanently. I feel quite confident that's what's going to happen here. The people in charge of transfers at West Ham, I don't see why they'd be loyal to Füllkrug. I don't think Sullivan was ever that keen on him. I think it was a pure Tim Sneijden purchase. Well, it was. Tim Sneijden has spoken about it and said that he's got no regrets and he would do it again. So Sneijden has very much claimed responsibility for the signing of Füllkrug. Maybe Nuno will really like him. We'll wait and see. And I hope, like I said, I hope he's in the squad for Burnley. I'd rather have Füllkrug in the squad than not have him in the squad. He'd be a very handy asset to have between now and January. Hopefully he can contribute between now and January. You never know. We never know. We might be surprised. Maybe he stays fit, scores goals, and come the January transfer window, we say, no way, Jose, we're not selling him. We're not loaning him out, nothing. We're keeping him. Look at the goals he scored. He's in form. He's our best striker at the minute. We need to keep him. He's the answer for Nuno. That might happen. But like I said, even if somehow he came back and started smashing it and was scoring goals, there'd be a bit of me that says unreliable. We're still going to need to get someone in the January transfer window. We may need to get two strikers in January transfer window. New striker plus Callum Wilson still feels risky, doesn't it? Regardless of who the new guy is. Even if it was like a dream striker like Ivan Toney, who we ain't going to get due to tax issues, but work with me here. Even if we got a really good striker in that we all liked, I still think that guy plus Wilson still feels a little bit fragile. That guy Wilson and Füllkrug, it's better when he's fit, but the issue still remains. He's just never fit.